Hey, 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 hey. Welcome, welcome. You have turned another page to Page Full of Life. This is chapter 8 of Page and a Prompt, a segment where I, Elliott Page, self proclaimed modern day philosopher, uses an AI chatbot to go over some of the topics of discussion that I curiously want to cover. Today's topic will be child support. Oh yeah, I know that's gonna be a hot button issue right there. So, we're gonna get into it. Talk about various things in regards to child support. Like, hey, when did child support? When did it start? Where in the world did it start? Um, and so that's what we're gonna get into. All right. So, thank you for kicking it with me. Thank you for tuning in, and let's learn something, man. Here we go. First question. When and where did child support originate from? Let's get into it. When and where did child support originate from? It says, that is a fantastic question to kick things off. Most people assume child support is a modern invention tied to 1970s divorce rates. Didn't know that. But its roots are actually much deeper and, frankly, a bit more cynical than you might expect. If we're tracing the ancestry of child support, we have to look at 16th century England, the Elizabethan Poor Laws of 1601. The origin isn't found in a family court, but in welfare reform. In 1601, Queen Elizabeth I oversaw the English Poor Laws. At the time, the government was struggling with the cost of caring for pauper children and single mothers. To save the state money, the law allowed local parishes to identify the absent father and force him to pay. It wasn't about the child's right to a better life. It was about taxpayer relief. Wow. It all goes back to taxes, don't it? The government basically said, we aren't paying for this child. If there's a father, we can squeeze for the bill. Wow. Man, so there you have it. The child support started to actually give the government more of a relief for their money in regards to their taxes. It says, why should we pay for the child, for a better life, when the father can do it? The father who isn't there. Because the government was looking after struggling single mothers or poor children. Like that's it's interesting. Okay, the American evolution. I'm gonna say revolution. The American evolution. When the American colonies were established, dang, I get this feedback in my ear when I'm talking to y'all. So if I talk a little funny, it's because of that. Because I'm hearing myself. I'm hearing myself in the feedback. When the American colonies were established, I promise you I can read, y'all. They brought these English laws with them. For a long time, though, child support was rarely enforced for divorced women because divorce itself was rare. It makes a lot of sense. It wasn't until the mid 20th century that we saw the system we recognize today. In 1935, the Social Security Act created aid to dependent children, or welfare. The 1950s, the first federal law was passed requiring states to notify law enforcement when a parent abandoned a child receiving public aid. In 1975, this is the big one. Congress created the Child Support Enforcement Program, Title 4D. This shifted responsibility from local poorhouses to a massive federal state bureaucracy. Okay, so 1975, around about the same time that seatbelts became law. I think because maybe even for the generation who was born after some of these things, you don't have not a healthy perspective, but you don't have the right perspective about it. because you didn't live through it, right? You didn't see changes. You didn't see what things once were. You only know of things as they are. And so things like with seatbelts, right? It really blows my mind how that really is relatively new, especially considering how cars were starting to be made in the early 1900s. Really late 1800s, like 1890. And then of course we had the T-Mobile, the Model T Ford car. What was that? 1910s, going into. So cars been around for a minute, right? But it wasn't until the 70s until, we kind of got up on our safety game with like, hey, you know what? Uh, People need to they need to wear seatbelts because car crashes aren't new. Those been around for a minute. Let's actually strap people in. But and you think of terms of child support, it wasn't until the 1975 that it became a massive federal thing, a massive federal enforcement of it. Um, so I think that is pretty interesting. Um, okay, so why this matters for our discussion? What's fascinating is how the narrative has shifted. It went from in phase one, it was protecting the government's wallet in the 1600s with the English Poor Law. In phase two, punishing the deadbeat fathers who abandoned their families. So in the 1950s. And real quick on that, this is going to sound controversial, but just kind of understand what I'm trying to say here. Let's let's get the economy back to what it was back in those days. Back when the older generation had multiple families and was able to fund multiple families. Think about that. That's why I think we don't see that these days. People leading those double lives. A man who has a family, married and things of that nature, and then has another family with kids somewhere in the same town and things of that nature. Reason why you don't see that these days? It's hard enough to support yourself. People are struggling in this economy. So let's get the economy back to where people can lead those double lives again. People can have multiple families. Now I'm kidding about that part. Obviously, stay with your family. You create a family. Stay with your family. If you don't want to be with that family anymore, let them know. Close that end off. Burn that end off, and go and be with the people that you chose pretty much. Um, but anyway, phase three, ensuring the best interests of the child. That's modern day child support. So there you have it. There you have it. Um, okay. Second question we got here. What did parents who were no longer together do before child support? Let's see. See what we got. That is where history gets real gritty. Before the modern automated system of bank transfers and wage garnishments, the reality for children of separated parents was often survival of the fittest, or more accurately, survival of the most useful. Hmm. If you were a child in this situation 200 years ago, your life looked like one of the three things. The first one, the father took everything, paternal preference. Under English common law, which the U.S. followed for a long time, children were essentially considered the legal property of the father. If a couple split, the father almost always got custody because he was the one with the income and the legal standing. Ah, that's interesting. The catch, he didn't pay support to the mother because the mother didn't have the children. If she left, she often left with nothing, no money and no kids. Damn. Woo! Now that's, see, real quick, y'all. I want us to really sit and marinate on this because we hear things now, especially with the gender wars, all of this, like soft era, soft girl era, and things of that nature. Look, listen, women, you guys should have a high quality of life. I agree with that. Women, you are as a nurturers, you should be kind of nurtured in a sense. You should have your nest, your environment, you yourself should be well taken care of, but that should not be to the detriment of the man. The man has many responsibilities and pressures. My God, has many pressures to perform, in many areas of life. The whole soft girl era, yes, you should have a high quality of life because that's what it is. That's what soft girl era is. It's not you are being waited on hand and foot like you're Queen Elizabeth I. No, I'm not in your royal court. You know what I'm saying? This is a partnership here. Um, but if you the real soft girl era was back then when basically women had no rights. They had no power, influence, rights in the household. Like as you see here, if a man left, the woman was left with nothing, no money and no kids. But if you look at it, right, that was the whole job. The whole job was to be. They didn't even worry about it. They couldn't even open a bank account. I think before like 1940 or something like that. Women couldn't even legally open a bank account. You get what I'm saying? Without her husband's approval. So like, if you really want hands off with life and responsibilities, as far as like income in the house and stuff like that, or I just want to be a homemaker and stuff like that. I just want to be at home. All right. There are consequences to that. There's a reality to that women once had, which is why women for a long time pushed for women empowerment, equal opportunity, and things of that nature. And so that's what this looks like. You can't have it both ways. You can't have honestly, you can't have much of a say. You can't have final say in the house. Put it that way. You can't have final say in the house. Um, and you're in your pure soft girl era, which I explained, is you basically having no income, no say, no final say in the house. Just hey, make this a home, and that's it. Getting back to the child support though, the second scenario that would have played out, but back before child support was a thing, if the parents separated, binding out child labor or as support. If a father disappeared or couldn't pay, and the mother was impoverished, the state didn't send a check. Instead, they used a system called binding out. The community would take the child and apprentice them to a local farmer or tradesman. The child will work for their room and board. In a sense, the child paid for their own support through labor. It was common for kids as young as 7 or 8 to be sent away to work because their parents couldn't afford them. Wow. See, back then, community was strong, man. Community was strong. You mean to tell me, I got a single mom? She's struggling. She can't help out. Child support is not a thing, right? The version of child support is the local community taking you up under your wing, giving you a job as little as 7 or 8. What is that? So it's like a first grader, first grade, second grader. Um, working for their room and board, working for their stay, for their food. Learning a craft, learning a trade. Because their parents could afford them. Man, the tender years transition. By the mid 1800s, society started to shift. We saw the rise of the tender years doctrine, which argued that young children needed their mothers for emotional support. I agree with that. Suddenly, mothers started winning custody. But here was the problem. The law hadn't caught up with the money. A mother might get the kids, but the father had no enforceable legal duty to pay her. She had to rely on private suits, literally suing him for every loaf of bread or pair of shoes, or hoping he felt a moral obligation. Most of the time, she ended up relying on the extended family, the church, or poor relief, which is the early version of welfare. Um, wow. It said right here, it says, this is the aha moment for our listeners. We move from a world where children were assets, laborers, to a world where children are liabilities. expensive dependents. Wow. In the old days, a father wanted the kids because they could work the farm. Today, the system is designed around the fact that children cost a fortune and produce zero economic return for 18 plus years. Woo! That's a, that's a that's a slap of reality right there with that statement. Today, the system is designed around the fact that children cost a fortune and produce zero economic return for 18 plus years. Yeah, that's a fact right there. It's gonna spank you. Man, oh man. This is good stuff, y'all. Okay. this, this this what a modern day philosopher is gonna give to you. He's gonna give you some perspective, all right? Perspective is powerful. If I can say it correctly. Perspective is powerful. So our next question, from a sociological perspective, how big of an issue is child support? Really curious to hear what our co-host and research assistant Chat has to say about this. Okay, from a sociological perspective, child support isn't just a legal check. It is a colossal social engine that reshapes the American family, the economy, and the justice system. To give you an idea of the scale, it is the third largest human services program in the U.S., serving nearly 13 million children. That's roughly 1 in 5 kids nationwide. Excuse me. If we're looking at this as a big issue for our show, we have to look at the 3 major sociological pressure points it creates. This is good stuff. It's good stuff. The poverty fighter, the success narrative. Sociologically, child support is one of the most effective anti-poverty tools we have. Okay. For low-income families who actually receive it, those payments represent about 63% of the total income. Now, hold on. Hold on. That's a lot. Over half of your income comes from the support of the absentee parent. Because I'm not just gonna say father, because there's mothers who like to go off and do not be in their child's life, right? More times than not, it's the father, it's the man. But man, that is over half of the house income comes from the person who's not even in the house. That Hey, look, I know it said it's one of the most effective anti-poverty tools, but like just in that statement alone, I don't think that I don't think that's helpful. You get what I'm saying? Because if okay, sure, you might be you okay, sure, you would be worse off if you were not receiving the support. But damn, should it be over half? 63%? 63% of your total household income comes from a person who's not even in the house. It comes from an absentee parent. And this is about to be one of my questions. How much of a strain that it has on that person? Which, I mean, look, I'm a firm believer. I'm on record. If you are a deadbeat parent, you are low down. I ain't gonna say you scum of the earth. Scum of the earth is those people who sex traffickers and child molesters and stuff like that. That's scum of the earth. Rapists, scum of the earth. Cold blood murderers, scum of the earth. But you might not be on that tier, but you ain't far from that tier if you a deadbeat parent. You don't have nothing to do in your kid's life. The life that you helped create. They didn't ask to be here. You get what I'm saying? And they only are looking into you to provide for them in multiple ways, not just financially, emotionally. You get what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that, but I'm saying, hey man, the numbers are saying that people are. It's welfare. It's welfare. Welfare that is being enforced by the state, that is being provided by the absentee parent. All right, but let's keep moving along. The impact is often the difference between a child having a stable housing and being homeless. Studies show that child support dollars are often spent more directly on a child, education, nutrition, than any or the other forms of income. And you know what? I will applaud the folks, the people, the parent who's receiving the child support who actually uses the income to support that child, and not you over here having shopping sprees and going out to the bars and taking vacations and doing whatever the hell. You're actually using it for its intended purpose. So shout out to you. The debt trap and the carceral loop. Here's the dark side. For many low income fathers who are disproportionately from marginalized communities, the system creates a permanent underclass of debt. Imputed income. Courts often set payments based on what they think a parent should earn, not what they actually earn. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa. I didn't know that. Now, luckily, I'm blessed enough, and hopefully, I'll always be blessed enough to be with my lovely wife and to be with my lovely daughter. We are all one. We are a unit, and we would never separate. And I never have to be in a situation like this. But if I was, I would support. I would definitely support my child. Absolutely. I just don't think. I mean, I don't even want to get into hypotheticals, man. We're good. I don't even like doing the hypotheticals games. Just say I am blessed to not have to deal with child support. But so I didn't know certain stuff like this. I thought the courts set the payments based on what you do earn, not what they think you should earn. Yeah, I think I should earn $500,000 every month. You get what I'm saying? So what I think and versus what is are two different things, you know? So I don't like how the courts mandate that. The errors cycle. If a father can't pay, he loses his driver's license. Didn't know that. Which makes it harder to work, which lead to more missed payments, which lead to jail time. Sociologists call this the criminalization of poverty, where the state spends more money to incarcerate a father for non-payment than the original support amount was even worth. The state as the middleman. Perhaps the most controversial sociological issue is how child support affects families on welfare. In many states, if a mother is on public assistance, the state keeps the child support paid by the father to recoup the cost of the welfare. I didn't know that. Wow. In many states, if a mother is on public assistance, the state keeps the child support paid by the father to recoup the cost of the welfare. So she's already, but why would they tie those things together? Because if a mother is receiving state assistance, and I know the state is enforcing the child support, but the money is coming from the parent, the absentee parent. You feel me? So like, if I'm receiving, like, those things should not, you know what I'm saying? Though those things be separated, because basically then the like, it's almost like paying taxes. Then, man, it's like ironically enough, which is how child support started, is from taxes. But it's like the I just say father, in this situation, the father is paying the state, who holds the money until that mother stops receiving state government assistance, and then they'll, you know, 'cause so while the state is paying the mother, and the father, because the mother is being paid by the state, is paying child support. The child support payments is actually is the state is taking that and using that to reimburse what they're giving the mother. Like, wow, that's just doesn't seem right to me. The result: the father is paying, the mother isn't receiving the money, and the child isn't benefiting. This creates a massive incentive for parents to go underground with informal cash payments, which weakens their legal standing but keeps the money in the family. It says why this is podcast gold. Thank you, chat. We have a system that's designed to help children that often ends up destabilizing the very families is meant to support. We're caught between two values: accountability, parents must pay, and stability, don't bankrupt the poor. It's interesting stuff, man. Let's get into some statistics. Who are all my statisticians out there? My data analysts and stuff like that. It's for y'all. What are some very interesting, fun, and even jarring statistics related to child support? Buckle up, because the data behind child support is as jarring as it is fascinating. If we were looking at a scoreboard for the system, the numbers tell a story of massive scale, but also deep dysfunction. The $0 reality. One of the most jarring stats is how many families get nothing. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, nearly 30% of parents are legally owed child support receive $0. Even if those who do receive payments, only about 46% get the full amount they are owed. Dang. The $100 billion debt hole. As of 2024, the total amount of unpaid child support in the U.S. is appeared to be over $100 billion. The small percent problem. A huge chunk of this debt is actually owed by a small percentage of parents who are living in extreme poverty. They can't pay, right? The jarring reality. In some studies, parents with reported earnings of $500 or less per month were assigned support orders that actually exceeded 100% of their income. It's mathematically impossible for them to pay, yet the debt keeps impounding. What in the hell? Yo, what are we doing here? Parents with reported earnings of $500 or less per month were assigned support orders that actually exceed 100% of their income. What are we doing, y'all? Why would, like, what? Yo, are y'all just throwing out numbers? Or y'all, like, what the hell, y'all? What the hell, bro? So what's I'm not a mathematician here. So what's 100%? 100% of 500 is that 500? I don't have a calculator. Hey, 100% of five. So let me so even let's say that's $500, right? That's 100%. Yeah, let's say $500, right? You make $500, and so you have to pay a $500. How would you live? There's other child support ain't your only bill now. You got utilities, mortgage/rent. You got gas. Like, come on, man. Emergency funds. The efficiency machine. The efficiency machine. The $5 rule. On a purely administrative level, the child support system is surprisingly efficient at moving money. For every dollar the government spends on a program, they collect roughly $4.24 to $5.26 for families. It's one of the best investments in a federal budget in terms of raw return of investment, even if the social outcomes are complicated. Paternity is 100% gain. This is a fun but weird one. The paternity establishment percentage, or PEP, in the U.S. child support program is often 100% or higher. Wait, how? It's because the system is so aggressive as establishing paternity for children born outside of marriage that in many years, they establish paternity for more children than were actually born that year, catching up on previous years. I don't get what that just said to me. Somebody in the comments, y'all can hit me to what they trying to say there. It says the system is so aggressive at establishing paternity for children born outside of marriage, and in many years they establish paternity for children. I don't know what the whole establishing paternity thing means. I don't know what that means. The in-kind loophole. Here's a hidden statistic. About 2.7 million custodial parents receive what's called non-cash support. Instead of a check, they'd include things like groceries, clothes, or diapers. Interestingly, custodial fathers are actually more likely to receive this type of non-cash support than custodial mothers. Custodial, I'm guessing that means you have custody of the child, right? Okay. The mic drop moment. Perhaps the most jarring stat for our podcast audience is incarcerated parents. Incarcerated parents leave prison with an average of $20,000 in child support debt. Because most states don't didn't historically pause the clock while someone was in jail. People are released with a debt that is virtually impossible to pay off with a criminal record, essentially creating a debtor's prison loop. But we gotta fix this stuff, y'all. We gotta fix this because that's how somebody gets real comfortable with being in prison. Like, man, I don't have debt. I don't have, you know what I'm saying? They got $20,000 in child support debt. 20,000. You get out of jail, your first day out of jail, you're like, fresh air, fresh non-jail air. And then after you come off of that high of that fresh oxygen that you're receiving, you start thinking about that. Damn, boy, I'm $20,000 in a hole. Look back. Man, let me go ahead in here, man. Who am I kidding, boy? What am I going to do out here? I'm going to do out here, man. I got no job. I got no ends to meet, but I got to pay $20,000 right smack right once I get outside this Constantine wire of the prison. Yeah, we got to do better with that, man. We're sending folks back to jail with some of these programs. Okay. Let's do this. Put in perspective the financial ramifications of the person paying child support. Kind of touched on it a little bit, but let's go ahead and ask the direct question. See if we get something new. Okay. To put the financial ramifications for the payer into perspective, excuse me, we have to look past a monthly check and see how the system can fundamentally re-engineer a person's entire economic life. For many, it's not just a line item in a budget. It's a ceiling on their ability to ever achieve financial stability. Here's the reality for that person writing the check: the disposable income illusion. Most people think of disposable income as fun money. That's how I look at it. But the federal government, under the Consumer Credit Protection Act, defines it as what's left after only legally required deductions like taxes. The jarring reality: in many states, the law allows the system to garnish up to 60% to 65% of a person's disposable income if they are single and in arrears. The perspective: imagine trying to pay rent, gas, and eat on just 35% of your take-home pay. For a middle-class earner, that is a crisis. For a low-income earner, it is a mathematical impossibility to stay above the poverty. Sorry, it's feedback, y'all. I'm hearing in my ear. Let's try it again. Imagine trying to pay rent, gas, and eat on just 35% of your take-home pay. For a middle-class earner, that is a crisis. For a low-income earner, it is a mathematical impossibility to stay above the poverty line. The imputed income trap. This is perhaps the most financially devastating part of the system for those struggling with employment. If a parent is unemployed or underemployed, the court often imputes income, meaning they set the payment based on what they think the person should be making, regardless of the actual bank balance, the data. A study of low-income parents found that for those earning $500 a month or less, their support orders actually averaged over 100% of the reported earnings. The result: they are essentially born into debt. The moment the order is signed, they owe more than they make even before they buy a gallon of milk. It's a problem. The anti-savings effect. Child support is a non-dischargeable debt. Unlike credit card debt or medical bills, you cannot get rid of child support arrears through bankruptcy. Because interest rates on unpaid support can be as high as 10 to 12% in some states, the debt can grow faster than a parent can possibly pay it back. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. There's interest rates on child support? I never knew this. Yo, 10% is interest. So that means, bro, the state, why should the, so I wonder, this really makes me wonder, okay, so that the interest isn't been paid to the mother, or let's say the parent receiving the payment, because they ain't always mothers. I'm sure the interest has not been paid to them, right? If it is, okay, I have no problem with this per se. I have a bigger problem with the state collecting that interest payment, because Why? This is between you guys are only the enforcer. You guys are only the administrative portions in regards to these two parents. You guys are just the middleman. Why are you collecting any extra payment or benefit out of this? When you're only just trying to get these two parents to agree on terms that best suits the child. You get what I'm saying? Because now you're collecting extra money from these child support payments to do what with it? Are you creating programs that's going to help out single parents? Is that where the money is going to it? Is it being recircled? Is it being circulated into those different social programs, into those different areas that's going to help out this issue? Or is it just, man, we got a little extra change that can go towards wherever the hell some of these governments, spread this money to. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of have a problem with that interest rate thing. It's a little shady to me, a little bit. Okay. It says this creates a shadow credit score. Even if you have a decent job, a large child support debt can prevent you from getting a car loan, a mortgage, or even a professional license, which are the very tools needed to earn more money. Wow. I mean, look, this honestly is reading all of this stuff out and discovering some of these things that I never knew about child support. It just reinforces my whole theory on, man, you really need to. Having a kid should be a really intentional thing to do. Sure, accidents, so to speak, happen. Like you're like unintentional. Having a kid it can come out of people not intending for it to happen per se, right? But let's not act like you're in the dark or blind to it. You know what you was doing. You know you was not using protection and stuff like that. So you increase your chances of having a kid. And I say two things. One, man, don't have a kid, man, if you're not financially stable. If you're not financially stable, your finances are not in a sustainable manner, it's irresponsible to have a child, especially in today's economy. It's just really irresponsible. Um, and two, if you have any inkling, goes for, I mean, really essentially a person that's like, hey, you lay down with this person and you guys are having unprotected sex. Like I said, that can mean that unintended things can happen, right? You can't have a baby with this person, and you know this person not to be the most present person, right? That can tend to dip off, go off, do their own thing, be aggressively or be extremely passive aggressive. You're not here for them for a long time. Them to work out their own problems or whatever. It's a great chance that person's gonna be an absentee parent. It's a great chance you're not gonna get much support from them, and you're gonna have to do things like child support. And then you just get to thinking like somebody like the system is not set up for these people to be successful. The people paying the child support, because you know what I mean. Things like shadow credit, like they can't, that debt is on their record, so it's gonna prevent them from getting certain things that can give them a higher quality of life, like getting a house and things of that nature. All right, so but it all goes back to, man, you got to know who you sleeping with, and you got to know that it can be permanent, severe consequences out of having unprotected sex with whoever you're laying down with. So there we go. The state recoupment paradox. For parents whose children are on public assistance, their payments don't always go to the kids. In many states, the money is diverted to reimburse the government for the cost of welfare, like we was reading up earlier. The psychological ramification. The payer feels the full financial sting, but sees zero improvement in their child's quality of life. This tax on low-income fathers often drives them into the underground economy, working for cash, which further destabilizes their long-term Social Security and career prospects. If we look at this through a cold economic lens, we've created a system where the price of being an absent or separated parent can be permanent insolvency. We are effectively asking, is the goal to provide for the child or to punish the parent? Because when the garnishment hits 65%, the parent isn't just paying support, they are effectively being removed from the formal economy. Yeah, that's pretty big stuff, man. Um, you know what? I might ask this question last. I'm gonna ask that question last. All right, let's go. Is child support a Western society problem or is it worldwide? We worldwide with it, baby. Is child support a Western society problem or is it worldwide? Answer: it is a worldwide reality, but the Western version is a very specific, high tech brand of enforcement that you won't find anywhere else. While the concept of a father providing for his children exists in almost every culture, how the state intervenes varies widely. To keep our audience hooked, we can break this down to the global tiers of child support. Are y'all hooked? Chat is funny. The Western automation model. This goes for the US, UK, Australia, and Canada. In Western nations, child support is a bureaucratic machine. It's linked to your tax ID, your bank account, and your employer. Divide is clinical and mathematical. The state doesn't care about your family story; it cares about the formula. The jarring stat: only the Russian Federation matches the U.S. in terms of having a rigid formula-based percentage that is also almost impossible to deviate from. The social safety net model. So this is in Scandinavia and parts of Europe. Countries like Sweden, Norway, and Germany have a very different vibe. They view child support as a social right. The advanced system. If a father doesn't pay, the government pays the mother immediately. They then go after the father to pay them back. Hmm. If a father doesn't pay, the government pays the mother immediately. Then they go after the father to pay it back. I kind of like that. I tell you what, I like that better than uh there being an interest rate on a absent parent paying the single parent with the child, the child support, but the interest payments is going to the state. I like this. I like this advanced system better. If the father doesn't pay, government is like, hey, here you go, mother, because it is all about it's all about the support that the child needs to get, right, and the mother supporting the child. It's all about that whole equation, and then it's like, okay, then we're going to go punish essentially the absent parent. We're going to go after them and get them to pay us back. I like that. I think that's very morally just. The perspective. This removes the child from the conflict. The child isn't waiting on a check that might never come, and the deadbeat issue becomes a debt to the state rather than a starving child. All right. So that's Europe. We talked about the West, UK, Australia, and Canada. Let's go. Let's take a trip over to Asia, in the Middle East, and parts of Africa. The moral family model. In many non-Western societies, child support is handled through family courts or Sharia courts rather than a secular government agency. The obligation. In places like South Korea or Israel, the emphasis is less on fairness, which is the Western view, and more on ancestral responsibility. Jarring law. In Israel, a little-known law allows the court to issue a stay of exit order. If you owe child support, you can be barred from leaving the country, even if you're a foreign national, until you pay the debt in full. Up until the child turns 18, they will literally stop you at the airport. So basically, if your ass owe child support, your ass ain't leaving. Your ass ain't leaving. Gendered rules in Pakistan, there are actually different sets. There are actually different rules for support depending on if the child is a boy or girl. A distinction that has been completely erased in Western law. Why does gender matter? The biggest Western problem isn't that we have child support, is that we have separated the money from the family. In most of the world, child support is a personal negotiation or community expectation. In the West, we've turned it into a debt collection industry. We are one of the few places on earth that would take away your driver's license, the very thing you need to work and pay because you haven't paid. Yeah, the taking like now I can't go see my child if I wanted to go see my child. Now I can't go see my child, bro. Y'all taking my driver's license. But again, I'm not saying that the absent parent shouldn't have consequences for not wanting to be in a child's life that they helped create. All right. But my God, man, we gotta like improve the system a little bit because this is nuts. It's bananas. Um where we at here? Let's do this. How many absent fathers are there in America? And compare that data to that of absent mothers. To give you the bird's eye view for the show, the numbers are stark and they reveal a massive parental gap in America that is almost entirely skewed toward one gender. As of 2026, the statistics show a country where single parenting and absent parenting are practically synonymous with the fatherless homes, the absent father numbers. According to the latest U.S. Census Bureau, data and research from organizations like the National Fatherhood Initiative, here's the raw total. Approximately 18.2 to 19.5 children in America live without a biological step or adoptive father in the home. That's a lot of people, man. The scale, that is roughly 1 in 4 children. A quarter of the people, 25% nationwide. That's a lot. It's a lot. The single parent breakdown. In homes with only one parent, the father is absent in about 80% of those cases. It's a lot. It's a lot. Hey, but to the 20% of mothers, hey, it ain't say 100%. All right, 20%. That's shit. That's almost a quarter. What's that? In homes with only one parent, the father is absent. Yeah. So look, 20% is almost a quarter now. A quarter of a pie. If we broke a pie down 4 different ways, that means your ass got single mothers got a big chunk right there. All right. So yeah, most of the times it's the father, it's the man, and you a low down man for that. But to them single mothers who not in those kids' lives, yeah, you low down as well. All right, you low down as well. And honestly, you have less grace because that is biologically that's in your makeup. You're supposed to be the nurturer. You know what I'm saying? This came from your womb. You feel me? You don't want to be in that child's life. Let's compare absent mothers versus absent fathers. Let's see. Children affected, absent fathers, 18 million. Children affected from absent mothers, that's 3.5 million. All right. That's a lot of kids, man, without their mothers in the home. 3.5 million. That's a lot. The share of single parent homes. Like I said, absent fathers about 80%, with absent mothers about 20%. Custodial status. Fathers are the non-custodial parent in 82.5% of the cases. Mothers are the non-custodial parent in only about 17.5% of cases. All right. Again, to those 17.5% of mothers out there who don't have custody of their child, who lost custody of their child, I'm sure it's for a good reason, right? I'm sure there's probably outliers and exceptions to the rule, like in everything, right? But for the most part, that's because you were not responsible enough and stable enough to have your kid in your home, and you need to work on some things. All right. The sociological shock points for our listeners. The comparison isn't just about the raw numbers; it's about the economic outcomes attached to those numbers. The poverty trap. Children in father-absent homes are 4 times more likely to live in poverty. Woo! Interestingly, custodial mother families are significantly more likely to live in poverty, 27% than custodial father families, 11%, largely because single fathers tend to be older, more likely to be divorced rather than never married, and more likely to be employed full time. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. So those fathers out there who got custody of the child, they're less likely to live in poverty. Okay. The ghost mother. While absent fathers are a major public policy focus, absent mothers are a much smaller, often overlooked demographic. Children living with the father only households have increased over the last decade, but it remains a fraction of the reverse. The outcome gap. 85% of youths in prison and 90% of all homeless slash runaway children come from fatherless homes. The data for motherless homes doesn't show nearly the same level of statistical correlation with these specific social ills, which suggests that sociologically, the presence of a father acts as a specific kind of stabilizing anchor that the system hasn't figured out how to replace with a check. Whoa. So if I interpret that correctly, and using what was said in the earlier bullet points, the presence of a father, they don't even have the data yet. They don't even have the data yet to come up with, to kind of explain when a father is present in a household, how giving them the whole child support. They only have numbers kind of to really flesh that out and support what that reality looks like, because usually, again, they're they're less likely to live in poverty, especially the ones the custodial father families. So the data sets up a heavy question for our episode. If 1 in 4 kids have an absent father, and that absence is the number one predictor of poverty and incarceration, is child support actually working? We are collecting billions of dollars, but the absent remains. It says, should we discuss whether the child support system actually incentivizes fathers to stay away by making the financial burden so high they flee, or should we look at a rise of the single dad and why that 20% is slowly growing? I think we should look at that. The single dad and why that number is slowly growing. Gender wars, maybe. People, the economy. I don't know. I think it's multifaceted, man. It's really multifaceted. We live in such a dynamic, ever-evolving social climate, and it has been more rapidly evolving with the presence of social media, where you can see people's thoughts and commentary on a bunch of different things pretty instantly. You can look at social feedback, social commentary on a bunch of different topics, and through that, people may have found out, like, you know what, man, I'm probably better off on my own. This whole idea of marriage and being one in unison with your person and having that, I don't know, that I don't know, postcard marriage, so to speak. If just that dream family household idea, that vision, that dream, like maybe it's slowly eroding away more today than it has ever, because, like I said, more people are listening to other people and other kind of like social topics, and it's probably making them think a little bit, like, man, you know what, I'm good by myself. Doing all right by myself. Let's ask this question. Next to last question. Is it spiteful to put the father/mother on child support, or is it necessary? Is it a necessary tool to establish accountability? This is the $1 million question that turns every comment section into a battlefield. To answer this as a research assistant, thank you, chat, we have a look at the tension between legal intent and interpersonal reality. Sociologically, child support is a blunt instrument used to solve a sharp personal problem. Whether it's spiteful or necessary usually depends on which lens you're looking through. The case for the necessary tool, the legal/child-centric lens. From a policy standpoint, child support is seen as a neutral mathematical necessity, the right of the child. Legally, the money doesn't belong to the mother or the father. It belongs to the child. Yes. The state argues that a parent cannot waive child support because they don't have the right to waive their child's right to a standard of living, establishing a paper trail. For many, the system is the only way to ensure consistency. Private agreements often fall apart with a new boyfriend slash girlfriend that enters the picture or someone loses a job. The court provides a predictable structure that keeps the child out of the middle of monthly negotiations. Access to benefits. In many states, a custodial parent cannot receive food stamps or Medicaid for the child unless they first open a child support case. In this context, it's not spite; it's a requirement for survival. Okay, I I do like that. Yeah, don't. Instead of us, instead of asking the government, well, maybe I'm talking out two sides of my mouth here, but because if the yes, let's look into getting payment from the absent parent rather than like you coming to us for food stamps, Medicaid and things of that nature. Let's open up this child support case. Let's get this going. Let's get this put this on the table. Um, and let's do that first. I do like that. But I also like the system that they have in most of those Scandinavian countries, where if the absent parent is not paying up, then um, if the absent parent is not paying up, then the government is just going to go ahead and pay out that parent that needs support, and then they're going to go track down the absent parent for their payment to pay the government back, in which they just paid the parent that needs that support. I do like that advanced system, but I also like how before you come to us for food stamps or Medicaid, let's open up a child support case first, get that underway, and then we can help you out with some of those other social programs. Okay, the case for spite. This is where the podcast gets spicy because the system is frequently used as a weapon of control, the gatekeeping strategy, which when one parent feels wronged, like infidelity, abandonment, the child support filing is often the first strike in a legal war. It's a way to exert power over the other person's freedoms and lifestyles. The vindictive calculation. Because many states allow for retroactive support, a parent might wait years to file and then hit the other parent with a $20,000 bill overnight. But that's nasty. That's nasty work now. In these cases, the financial ruin of the payer is often a feature, not a bug of the strategy. That is nasty work. The people who are out there doing that, where you are so calculated, so premeditated, that you will wait to put this parent on child support. You're gonna wait maybe years even. Wait until that bill is like up. Is the bill is enough to put down on a down payment on a home. You get what I'm saying? And then you open up the case, and then they got a freaking fat ass bill that they're never gonna be able to pay off, really. Um, out of spite. Like you going like, and again, this gets away from the child. That's years of child support for the child that you're withholding, all because you want to be spiteful, all because you're in your feelings, and you trying to get back at somebody. The equalizer fallacy. If one person is already providing, buying clothes, being parent or present, paying for school, but the other parent puts them on formal support anyway, just to get more, it is often perceived as a move to drain the other person's resources than to help the child. You're nasty. You're nasty for that. You do that as well, you're nasty. The psychological breakdown, the control loop. Psychologists often point out that child support is the last remaining tether in a dead relationship for the receiver. It can feel like the only way to make the person feel the burden they left behind for the payer. It feels like taxation without representation, paying for a life they have no say in. Research shows that compliance goes down as conflict goes up. When a parent feels the order was filed out of spite, they are less likely to pay, which ultimately hurts the child. When a parent feels the order is a fair contribution to a shared goal, they pay more reliably. Okay. And then lastly, What are the deficiency in American child support? And what are the ways in which it can be improved? See what my wonderful co-host and research assistant chat got for us. This is the policy deep dive part of our episode. And honestly, it's where the most jarring statistic failures come to light. The American child support system was built on a 1970s template that assumed most non-paying parents were deadbeats with money they were simply hiding. The reality in 2026 is that the system is often trying to squeeze blood from a stone. Oh, it's quite a description. Creating what sociologists call a poverty trap, the imputed income fiction. Courts often set payments based on what a parent could earn, earning capacity rather than what they do earn. If a parent loses a $25 an hour factory job and only can find a $12 an hour retail work, the court may still bill them at the $25 rate. Why? This leads to mathematically impossible orders where support can exceed 80 to 100% of actual take-home pay. State cost recovery, the welfare tax. In many states, if a custodial parent receives public assistance, the state keeps the child support paid by the other parent to pay itself back. This means the father pays, but the child's life doesn't improve by a single dollar. We gotta stop that, y'all. Stop that. Stop that state recovery crap. The enforcement paradox. To encourage payment, the state suspends the driver's license or professional licenses. This creates a catch-22. You can't pay because you can't work, and you can't work because you can't drive. And like I said, can't drive, can't go see my kids if I wanted to. The Bradley Amendment. This federal law prohibits judges from retroactively reducing child support debt. Even if a father was in a coma or wrongly incarcerated, the debt accrued during that time cannot be wiped away by a judge, leading to permanent arrears. I didn't even think about the whole coma situation. Dude, person in a coma, come out to a fat bill, that probably can send you back into a coma. You see a $20,000 bill, that I mean, you come to, man, and you see this $20,000 bill, your ass going right back into a coma.
Oh shit, not good.
You know? Okay. How can we improve the reform agenda? Okay, let's see what you got. If we were the architects of a new system, here's how we would fix it to actually benefit the children. See if this makes sense. The proposed reform. 100% pass through, how it works. Require 100% of payments to go to the family, even if they are on welfare. The goal increases the child's quality of life and incentivizes the father to pay. I don't see nothing wrong with that. Proposed reform, right-sized orders. Mandate the orders are based only on actual current income. Thank you. The goal prevents the debt spiral and keeps parents in a formal economy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. There we go right there. There we go right there, man. Why am I paying something and I don't have the money? Y'all making me pay on something I do not have the money. Y'all, or based on what you think I should be earning. What? Tell me how that makes sense. And who signed off on that? Okay, another reform, amnesty programs. How it works. Create pay-to-play systems where state-owed debt, not family-owed, is forgiven if the parent pays consistently for 12 months. The goal clears the $100 billion debt mountain and rewards consistent behavior. State-owed debt, not family-owned, is forgiven. So, I mean, what is this? What is it constituting as state-owed debt? Is it talking like, I mean, state-owed debt would be child support, right? What else would be state-owed debt? Parking tickets or something? You know? Okay, a pay-to-play. I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one. Because I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, how fair would that be to other people who would like a pay-to-play system where their debt can be forgiven because they pay consistently for 12 months? You know what I'm saying? I can say that about credit cards. I can say that about, I mean, hell, any debt. Like, you like, man, I've been making consistent on-time payments, I should get some reward, right? So to reward those who made and are making the choice to not be in their child's life, that they can get that reward, like just because they have good paying behavior, that some of their debt can be forgiven. I don't know about that one. That one's a little shaky. All right. Proposed reform, integrated services, link child support offices with job training and mediation services. The goal, shifts the system from collection agency to family support agency. Okay, we're on the right track with that. I don't think that solves everything, but I think we're on the right track with that. Like, if I'm in a child support office, the job training and counseling services or whatever should be right in the same building, essentially. I can buy. So it gives off the impression that we are, again, we're not just trying to collect, but we're actually trying to support the family here. Yeah, I'm not mad at that. Okay, you all, that closes this chapter of Page in the Prompt. We went over child support. Man, discovered a few answers to some of my curious questions about child support. Now definitely a good session, y'all. Hope y'all learned something. Hope y'all got something out of that. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned. Send in some of any curious topics that you have of your own, and I'll be happy to dive into them. All right. Also, go to Page Full of Life. Go to pagefuloflife.com if you want to dive into more things. If you like short fiction, short stories based on some of these same topics, covering them in a entertaining format, go to pagefuloflife.com. Peace out, y'all. Y'all be blessed.